Did Neil Druckmann confirm that there will be a Last of Us Part 3? On February 2nd, Naughty Dog released Grounded 2, Making The Last of Us Part 2. This 2-hour documentary covers the process of creating the second installment of the Last of Us franchise from conception to release. If you haven't had a chance to watch it yet, I highly recommend it. It shows the emotional performances from the incredible actors in the game, and it also gives us these adorable clips of dogs in motion capture suits. Arguably the most interesting part of the documentary is the final message from president of Naughty Dog and writer of the first two games, Neil Druckmann. He stated that he's come up with a concept for a Part 3 and believes there could be one more chapter to the story. While this is not technically an official announcement that the game is in progress, it seems to be a total wink wink, this is totally happening, guys. Assuming this is a confirmation for a Part 3, what's less certain is the timeline we could expect to see for the project. The documentary stated in no uncertain terms that developers at Naughty Dog were getting burnt out from the crunch of releasing Part 2. As much as I'd love to see a Part 3, I wouldn't want it to feel rushed or like the developers lost their passion halfway through. Late last year, Naughty Dog announced that they were canceling a Last of Us multiplayer game in favor of single-player games. I find it unlikely that their next release will be a Part 3, however they could be in early development if Neil has drafted a story since the Grounded 2 interview was filmed. We saw in the documentary that Part 2 took several years from conception to its release in 2020. A Part 3 would likely take a similar length of time. I'd be interested to see if they're able to make this work in conjunction with the HBO series. As it stands, The Last of Us Part 2 is being split into at least 2 seasons, with the next season airing in 2025. If they began development for Part 3, they could theoretically release it around the time of a 4th season for the HBO series. I think they'd prioritize releasing the game well ahead of the show, but they could add an extra year delay between the 3rd and 4th season if they wanted to adapt to Part 3. With Season 2 coming out next year, they could also make an official announcement or teaser around the season's release to build hype. Of course, this is all my uneducated speculation. Finally, I wanted to discuss what I would like to see in a Part 3. Fair warning, I only completed Part 2 about a week and a half ago, so I haven't spent years considering a follow-up like I'm sure many people have. I'd love to see Part 3 focus on Ellie's redemption. She almost completely lost herself in Part 2, but I feel like it ended on a hopeful note that some part of her humanity is still in there. We sorta got a speedrun Abby's redemption in Part 2, but I'd like to see Ellie's turn at it. This may not be a popular opinion, but I'd like to see Ellie be used to make a cure without killing her. Coming from a medical background, Jerry's plan to kill the only immune person for the small chance of developing a cure was reckless. I want the Fireflies on Catalina Island to have a couple medical professionals who tell Abby her dad was a good guy, but kinda stupid.
Daddy's a dumbass!
Because they thought of some other things that they could at least try first before, murdering a child and possibly dooming all of humanity. It'd be cool if one of the surgery assistants from the first game was involved in the project on Catalina, since they would have had first-hand experience with what's been attempted so far. I know what you may be thinking, but I killed the assistants on my playthrough, so it'd break continuity. Well, when I played through Part 1, I roasted Jerry like a marshmallow, and they had the audacity to show him in a puddle of blood in Part 2, so I don't really care about that minor continuity issue. Anyway, they track down Ellie and get her to help them develop a cure. Throughout the games, Ellie wanted her immunity to mean something, but I also get the impression that after everything she's done and everyone she's lost, she'd want to sacrifice herself for the cure. I think it'd be poetic for her to realize that she can't be free of her guilt that easily. Once they have something that works, Ellie would have to find some other meaning in life beyond her immunity. I don't actually expect any of my half-baked ideas to make it into the game, though. I loved the story of both Part 1 and Part 2, and frankly, I can't wait to see what Neil has in store for us with a Part 3. Side note, one game mechanic or setting I'd like to see is the ability to choose which shoulder it defaults to for aiming. It always throws me off a little when I have to aim on the right. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please let me know what you'd like to see in a Part 3.